All right, let's check audio levels and all that fun stuff before we get rolling. A lot to talk about, obviously. Let's check audio levels. As you can hear me too. Stuff before we get. All right. Hope you all had a wonderful Saturday. I did. Got home from a wedding to watch this game, and then gonna watch the Cardinals season end. And as you all pile in here, I don't know where you guys are. I can actually tell where you guys are if you're on the SEC channel, the Texas A&M channel, or the Alabama channel. Welcome all. I'm Zach Ermilius. We're going to talk about this an interesting game between the Tide and the Aggies. Bryce Young, of course, did not play. So a real sloppy game for Alabama. If you see my eyes diverting, I'm watching the end of the Cardinals season. So just forgive me. I'm sorry. Alabama did not play well. So that's got to be a little disappointing for the Texas A&M team in year, 5 under Jimbo. You know, you had him on the ropes, backup QB, 4 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, and you couldn't put him away. You couldn't get the win. It came down to the last play of the game, and Alabama wins 24-20 against the Texas A&M Aggies. Lots to talk about. I'm here for a while at the voice of college football. Before I get into all of it, subscribe. If you're at the Alabama channel, Texas A&M channel, SEC channel, subscribe to all our channels. A lot of great people doing a lot of great work. And we're just here to talk college football. And more importantly right now here, we're to talk about Alabama, Texas A&M. I'm going to look at some of your guys' comments. We'll start. How do you not... I'm going to bleep the language. Sorry. I don't know. I think that's a fair question. I don't have an answer for you. He was bad today. Those are 2 field goals that he normally makes. And, it kept Texas. Because if he makes those, it's a 30-17 game. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Sometimes when you win, you really lose. Alabama lost the top spot today. Here's what I'll say about this. I agree. I think Ohio State earned the number 1 spot today. But we saw last week Georgia go to the wire against a bad Mizzou team. And think about Alabama tonight. Texas A&M's 3-3. They're unranked. They're still a talented team. And it took... look at everything that went wrong for Alabama. Backup quarterback who... Jaden Milroe cannot throw. Someone just said what I was about to say. Hurts was kind of regarded at Alabama as a rough passer, but he could run, he could do some things. Milroe is not close to the passer Jalen Hurts was. He wasn't. But the offense was very limited. They still ran the ball fairly well, 5.6 yards a carry against a solid Texas A&M defense. But when you have no threat of a pass game, it's going to burn them. It's going to burn them. 4 turnovers, 2 missed field goals. And it came down to the last play. But so I guess you can kind of overlook it. What was Jimbo doing kicking that field goal? Let me pull up a drive chart real quick. Because I have live stats, but I'm on rolltide.com. So I want to pull up a full drive chart because I want to talk about that second to last drive where they kicked the field goal. So if you give me 1 second, field goal. Okay. It was 4th and 8 before 2 false starts. Why aren't you going for it? Whatever. The point, I guess, doesn't stand because I did have the 2 false starts, but whatever. Chris Solo, Bob, what was that? The play calling was you have an extremely limited quarterback who cannot throw the ball, and you're playing for all the guff we'll give Texas A&M, their defense is still solid. It's still a pretty good SEC defense, and when you turn the ball over, I'd actually think, considering the circumstances, I actually think O'Brien called a decent game. I think he called a decent game. You can't. Bill O'Brien isn't scheduling 4 turnovers. We can talk more about the game. Tennessee fan, Alabama plays like that. Yeah. Oh, if they turn the ball over by 4 times next week in Knoxville, they're going to lose by a lot. It's going to be ugly. I would guess Bryce Young plays, which will play a big difference. I'm excited for that game. I really am. Very impressed with LSU today, or not LSU, Tennessee at LSU. Very, very impressed. Good for the Vols. And next week is going to be, this is the biggest Alabama-Tennessee game in what, 20 years? They've had a couple matchups like 2015. I think both teams were ranked. 2016, maybe they were both ranked to the Dobbs era, but that was, and the 1914 game in 2015. But just hey, Yachty with a hit. Yeah, and I even admit it, point nullified because the 2 false starts. And he had faith in his defense, and that's fair enough. Thank you. Holy cow. And for such a huge rivalry, I'm only 26. Only 26. I'm 26. So, and I don't want to talk too much about Tennessee, Alabama next week. We're here to talk about tonight's game. But, when I say I started watching football, 2006, 2007, like this has been a one-sided rivalry. So it'll be fun next week to have expectations of a great football game. Anyway, back to the events tonight in Tuscaloosa. The Texas A&M offense, podcasts all over the place make fun of it with Jimbo Fisher and his 10,000 play sheets. What is going on? They have talented players. Stewart was awesome tonight. 8 catches, 106 yards. The running back chain is just explosive as all hell. Every time he touches the ball, you're like, oh, God, he could do something with it. And he can because he's that talented. Hammond had a great game tonight. They have talent, but the quarterback whisperer, Jimbo Fisher, Haynes King, Max Johnson, they're not cutting it. And that's after 4 years of Kellen Mond, where Kellen Mond did this. He never got better. He never got worse, but he never really got better. Man, I just, right now that contract's looking tough. He did just bring in the number 1 recruiting class, so we'll see what happens moving forward. But this is a game you could arguably say Texas A&M should have won with 4 turnovers, backup quarterback. Credit to the Alabama defense a lot, too. I mean, Will Anderson. I don't know how many of you guys are reading my little ticker at the bottom. I try to put not a ton of information on it because if somebody comes in, I kind of just want them to get the gist. And so I don't usually add a lot of defensive stats unless there's like a pick 6 or a fumble recovery, something cool. I was just looking at Alabama Crimson Tide or RollTide.com. 8 quarterback hits for Will Anderson. That final drive, poor Haynes King played well. Like he played well in the final drive. I was, 2-minute drill, Texas A&M. I don't know if any of you were watching Iowa, Illinois. Iowa ran the funniest 2-minute drill of all time. All stats to you on the ticker brought from ESPN and RollTide.com. So I'm not wrong. They're wrong. He looked good. I mean, the Iowa 2-minute drill was the funniest thing. And the Texas A&M 2-minute drill, started with 2 passes over the middle, short of the sticks, which confused me. And then they got it rolling. They had help with the penalties. But, man alive, Haynes King looked fine. It's just the rest of the game, he was Haynes King. Like, there's quarterback. When you watch a quarterback, and we've watched a lot of great quarterbacks in the SEC, you can usually tell within 20 throws, 25 throws, if they have it. I'm thinking of like quarterbacks that even struggled. Drew Lock at Mizzou. His freshman year, they really, really struggled. But there were throws you're like, oh, he's got it. He can put it. If he puts it together, he's young. Haynes King just doesn't have it. He's not the long-term answer there, obviously. And that's the season. So we'll see what happens moving forward with Texas A&M. I mean, this was their last, big chance to do something this season. You win this game, all of a sudden you're 10 and or you have a chance at like 10-2 and your 6th game, and for all the disappointment of the App State loss, and now you're just looking at get to a bowl game, which they will. I have full confidence they'll get to a bowl game. But I mean, look at these next few games. They got Florida. They go to a bye week. The ESPN thing was being weird. Then they head to South Carolina. That's a winnable game. They got Ole Miss at home. They got Florida at home, at Auburn, the UMass, and LSU. So if they had won tonight, there's a strong chance that they could have finished 10-2 with a couple huge wins, including ones over Alabama, Ole Miss. They got the win over a pretty mediocre Miami team. Sorry, you have to forgive me with the Cardinal season ending. Gosh dang it. And now it's through 3-3. Even if you go 9-3, like you lost App State, you lost to Mississippi State. You shouldn't have beaten Arkansas. It's just kind of it's another year. It's another 8-4 year for Jimbo Fisher. Which how many more of these can you take if you're a Texas A&M fan? For those of you piling in, welcome into the stream. We'll be here for a while talking about how would you guys describe this game? Sloppy, just kind of a sloppy football game. On both sides, Alabama especially. Came down to the last play. That's the play you call. Kind of a weird route. Just to the, I don't know what that play call was. I mean, it was very obvious, one read and whatever. We got a comment. Why didn't they try Ty Simpson? With Milroe in the game, and it's not like they didn't. I can break this down pretty quickly. With Milroe in the game, the offense still had an identity. They were still moving the ball. Like if you look at total stats, 399, almost 400 yards isn't that bad, especially with a backup quarterback. 5.6 yards per carry, 288 yards rushing. You have an identity. Ty is a really talented player, and he's probably the next in line after Bryce Young. I just don't know if, as a freshman, that's the game you want to throw him into against that defense, a really good Texas A&M defense. Okay. Still a chance with a bowl win, obviously, for 10-3. But with the missed opportunities this season and how the SEC doesn't look quite as good as it normally is, Ole Miss is a really good team. You get Ole Miss at home. But other than that, it's a lot. Like Florida isn't any good. South Carolina is not any good. LSU obviously isn't any good. Just kind of a woohoo. You went 9-3 in a bad SEC West. Aggie should have won that game again from Chris. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we're being truthful, yeah, they should have won that game. Backup quarterback, 4 turnovers, 2 missed field goals. No excuse to lose that game. You talking about Garrett Nussmeier? I don't know. Here's the thing with A&M. Let me pull something up. The thing with A&M is if you look at their recruiting class, Evan Stewart, Connor Wegman, 5-star quarterback, top 22 player. He's the guy. So I don't think they're going to go in the transfer portal. I think they're just going to see if he can be ready next year. Chris Marshall would have been my go-to on the last play. He's your big wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, he was fine tonight. It's a tough. It was just weird. The thing for me that was weird about it is that there only seemed to be one read. I don't know. It's just weird play. Whatever. Texas A&M loses the game on it. It happens. This is going to be a fun little rivalry going forward because these games all seem to. These last two have been close. Texas A&M should have won tonight. Really should have won tonight. Yeah, keep your comments coming. I love an active chat. As we wind down this college football Saturday. Someone says they're definitely reading the ticker. Thank you, because I put a lot of work into it. I put all of about 3 minutes it takes me to make it. I don't even copy and paste. Entertaining-ish football game. We'll see where A&M goes from here. Alabama, obviously you don't like how they played tonight. Again, I'll just say backup quarterback, 4 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, and they still won, which is kind of scary. So if they get Bryce Young back, they don't have quite the fumble luck they didn't have tonight. So, but their goals are all still in front of them. They got a huge game with Tennessee. They still got to play Ole Miss. And they still potentially probably have Georgia in the SEC championship game. We'll see. Because all season I've been thinking it's going to be Georgia. I think Tennessee's good. I don't think they're great. I don't think Kentucky compete with Georgia. Now Kentucky, without Will Levis, lost a game to South Carolina. They can't lose. I went to Georgia, Tennessee, and Knoxville last year, and that was not a close game. So we'll see how they do in Athens. But, the Tide, all their goals are still ahead of them. More for the turnovers, Bama would have won by 20. Yeah, probably. That's turnovers are a huge part of the game. It's why teams want to force them, obviously. They probably keep playing to the level of our opponents. Yeah, I could kind of see that with Texas A&M. Although they didn't play to the level of Mississippi State. They got kind of destroyed by Mississippi State. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. In Texas A&M, maybe for A&M, this is like a bit of like, okay, we should have won this game, but we should have lost the Arkansas game, so things kind of even itself out over the course of a season. So maybe that's kind of what's going on here. Like, it's scary to think about for Jimbo Fisher that they very easily could be 2-4 in year 5. Year 5. That should not be happening. We're all dunking on Mel Tucker because he's, 2-4 in year 3? But Tuck coming, according to Spartan fans. All right, I got to get this Philly celebration off my big TV. Don't you worry. I had Alabama over here. I had the Cardinals up here. And both ticked me off. What do we got? Oregon State, Stanford, North Carolina, Colorado, Sacramento State. That's a blowout. Ugh, there's nothing left. That's upsetting. Even Pac-12 after dark is less than ideal. Drew again. Top team is important. It is important with all their goals still ahead of them. I'm sure Nick Saban is irritated. But I don't know. If I'm an Alabama fan, I can look at one of this two ways. I can say, wow, we played horrible tonight. We won, but Texas A&M isn't that good. Or if you're an Alabama fan, you can look at it as, look, we had a guy that can't pass in the game at quarterback. We had 4 turnovers, 2 missed field goals. So we were moving the ball, 400 yards of offense. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot, and we still managed to win a game. There's really 2 ways you can look at it. I'm kind of in between. I think there was a lot of negatives tonight if you're the Crimson Tide, but I think there's a lot of positives. And you can go back. Georgia looked pretty good today. 1 week ago, they were escaped a bad Mizzou team. They should have lost that game to Missouri. If Missouri has a Division I FBS quarterback. Bad teams have bad games. It just can't become a repeat thing. Like Georgia had a bad game against Kent State. Then they had a bad game against Mizzou. Then they played really well today against Auburn. So you just can't carry over. Next week's the big week. You're headed to Knoxville. Will Bryce Young be healthy? That's the important thing. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun game. Look, if you're a college football fan, if you're an Alabama fan, Texas A&M fans, I understand it. Probably not too much looking for it. But if you're an SEC fan, an Alabama fan, a Tennessee fan, or just a college football fan in general, how you're not looking forward to the Crimson Tide going to Knoxville next week is beyond me. That place is going to be electric. It's going to be a big game. It's going to feel like a big game. We're starting to get into October, middle of October, where we're starting to figure out what teams are good, what teams aren't, and what teams really do have something to play for, whether it be conference championship appearance. If you're like Kansas or TCU, like those are teams that's a big game today because those 2 teams are trying to play for a conference title. Oklahoma stinks. Texas looks okay with Quinn Ewers, but they've lost a game. Oklahoma State's pretty good. Those 2 teams are playing. So that's a big game. And then you got games like Tennessee, Alabama, which are 2 rivals, undefeated, looking to play for a playoff berth. We're starting to get into those kinds of games. And then you have other games that just aren't great. But I'll watch because I'm a dork. Nail biter. Yeah, anytime it comes down to the last play at the 2. Yikes. No, it was a fun game, though. I mean, sloppy as it was, give me a nice close, it's cold here in St. Louis. Nice close nail biter while I'm under a blanket than just blowouts. Here's the thing, guys. And for those of you who don't know, over there on the A&M, I do the Alabama postgame shows. I got really tired of doing blowouts. It gets really old because not a lot of people care. They're going to see, an Alabama postgame show. I don't care if that guy knows what he's talking about. And it's very informative and can break things down. It was a 60-0 game against Vanderbilt or whatever. I don't care. Man, is it so much fun to talk about close games because there's people will listen more. Yeah, no, he wasn't good tonight. He's look, Jaden Milroe just kind of is what he is. without four. Here's the thing, though, I will say about in defense of Milroe. Here's what I'll say in defense. If they don't fumble 4 times, and I'm pulling up because forgive me, McClellan fumbled, Milroe fumbled. He fumbled twice. Okay, so he needs to clean that up. I had forgotten I forgot who had the second fumble. But if he can just hold on to the ball, Alabama probably score, and McClellan holds on to the ball, and they only have the one pick or even just the one fumble. So they have 2 turnovers instead of 4, and they make one of those field goals. They probably have, 34, 37 points? You're like, oh, okay, not great, but a 37-20 win over a solid Texas A&M team, great. But yeah, no, he's just kind of is who he is. Obviously, Bryce Young's the starter for, reasons, because he's going to be a top 5 pick. No, A&M's 2 touchdowns were short fields, like a 33-yard drive and a 50-yard drive. And except for the last drive, but they got the stop, and that's all that matters is they got the stop. No, defense looked fine. I mean, poor Haynes King. Will Anderson was just in his face. Snap. Oh, God, there's Will Anderson. Just truly terrifying. That man. Best of luck to whatever NFL team gets him next year, because you're going to get an incredible player. Yeah, Reichert, I don't know what was up with him tonight. He was not very good. And, yeah, you don't think he'll have another game like that. So it's been a long day. So we'll see. I mean, he's probably going to need to make a few kicks in Knoxville next week. So, you got to hit that throw. Is Chance Nolan, or is Nolan playing for Oregon State tonight? He really shouldn't be after 8 picks the last 2 weeks. So bad against USC. Anyway, but yeah, leave your comments. What more did you guys notice from this game? I thought the offensive line looked good tonight. Talented A&M front, good A&M front. 5.6 yards per carry. I thought the offensive line looked pretty dang good after looking pretty dang good again in the fourth quarter, especially against Arkansas last week. So that's a good sign if you're the Crimson Tide. I'm not going to count Roydell Williams, 6.3 yards per carry. Milroe, 5 yards a carry. Jahmyr Gibbs, 7 yards a carry. The O-line legitimately looked good. Bryce Young will be back against Tennessee. I assume so. But with injuries, I never want to, say it. But if he's back, Alabama, and he's healthy, Alabama, that will be fine. Gibbs, early in the season, Gibbs in the passing game, like screens, dump offs, maybe like an angle route or whatever, looked good. And maybe it was more on the offensive line. Excuse me. No, we're going to mute that ESPN tab, stats tab. But his the running the ball, handoffs, he didn't look as special. The last couple weeks, he's looked special. He's looked like the player that carried Georgia Tech to a couple wins last year, which is hard to do as a running back in 2022. Gibbs is a fantastic football player, and he's only showing his view even more. Time to sober up and hit the hay. Yeah, that's all you can do. I hope you all had a great Saturday. It was an entertaining Saturday. Kind of a all off season. We built this weekend up as the big weekend. We were like, oh man, Tennessee, LSU, Mississippi State, Arkansas is an entertaining game. Someone was like, oh, Michigan State, Ohio State. That was never going to be a good game. UGA, Auburn, Utah, UCLA. We were like, man, there's so many good games this weekend. A&M Alabama was, of course, the headliner. Yeah, I mean, Alabama A&M was a great game. But other than that, yeah, there were some good ones. There's always good ones. Next week's looks to be fun, though. But I think every week we say that. Let me look real quick. What is Florida State? Oh, Florida State, buddy. You had all that momentum. Wow. What a weird night. Just a weird night. Eight and 2 in your picks. Congratulations. I don't remember how I did. I know anybody that was any of my friends that betted, I was like, hey, you should really consider taking the over on Ohio State at Michigan State. And they did. They did. I'm just looking at Twitter. Someone sent me Jimbo Fisher owes me, or I'm not like scrolling through Twitter. That would be rude of me. Jimbo Fisher owes Jameis the entire contract. I mean, at least half, right? I know how many of you are watching from the Texas A&M channel. There's a few of you in here. At least half of it, right? I mean, who's Jimbo had besides him? He had EJ Manuel. Who was after Jameis? Was it DeAndre Francois? I think that was his name. And then you had a year of, well, they had Francois. He got hurt. I think it was James Blackman was their quarterback. And then he had 4 years of Hayden. Ooh, 39 and 19. Attaboy. Good stuff. See, then he had James Blackman. Then he had Kellen Mond. Last year he had I mean, he had obviously Calzada and Haynes King, who got, okay, mostly Calzada. You know, he just, yeah. We're talking about Bill O'Brien again. Some of his calls were terrible. I mean, you're going to find in the course of any game some play calling is going to be a little iffy. But if you, I think Bill O'Brien called a pretty solid game. Consider, you know, if Alabama, I know we can't play the what if game too much, but if Alabama doesn't turn the ball over 4 times, they make 2 field goals. What do they probably score like 40 points, 37 points, 35 points? And we're all like, oh, backup quarterback, and he scored 30 something points. That's good. Good job. So actually, I'm kind of the opposite. I think Bill O'Brien actually called a pretty solid game. Just turnovers, man. They'll get you every time. Every time. You know, I actually thought Bill O'Brien called a pretty good game. You know, like I said, in the course of a football game, you're going to find a couple calls where you're like, "What in the world?" Like the last play for Texas A&M. But I thought Bob was fine tonight. Not too big of an issue. I thought, and you're the one that earlier defense is playing well. Yeah, I mean the defense. This is much more of a early 2020 Alabama defense was pretty bad. Like the Ole Miss game, they gave up yards to like Mizzou, I think, in the first game that year. Wasn't very good. Last year's defense was kind of like they had a moment, like they had its moments, but for the most part, just was kind of whatever. This is back to like a legit Alabama defense. Like it's a good defense. I think maybe the worst game they played was that Texas game, and who knows what happens if Quinn Ewers stays in that game. But 20 points tonight, 2 touchdowns for the Aggies on short fields. You can live with that, especially in modern college football where offense is put at a premium from rules and officiating, and you gave up 20 points in 2 short drives, which is going to happen. Alabama. I mean, A&M doesn't have a good quarterback, but they still have some talented players all over that roster. And yeah, I mean they score. They kept it a game. If you're, let's see, how many people? Okay, I got 2 on the Texas A&M channel. If you're a Texas A&M fan, be honest. Don't type out a paragraph. Obviously, how do you feel about tonight's game? Because I'm really interested from the A&M perspective. Because like the Alabama perspective, you kind of take it one or two ways. But if I'm an A&M fan, I'm looking at this game like, man, they had a backup quarterback, 4 turnovers, 2 missed kicks, and you couldn't win that game. That would be my perspective, but I'm really curious to hear from A&M fans. Usually I can get that kind of viewpoint when I look on Twitter, but I'm not like scrolling through Twitter. I'm talking to you fine folks. So I'm really interested. And even if you're not an A&M fan, like, what do you guys think that an A&M fan's perspective is on the loss tonight? Alabama fans, I can kind of put them in 2 camps. Oh my God, we looked horrible, or we didn't look good. We had a lot of mistakes, and we still won against an SEC West team. Fire Jimbo. How much? So A&M fans, if you're listening and you want to talk and you want to comment, great. I really appreciate it. What? And again, I wish I could just be like on Twitter and just like, okay, this is what are your thoughts on Jimbo? We're in year 5. They're 3-3. Lost to App State at home, obviously. Got crushed by Mississippi State. Lost to Alabama in a game you really should have had every opportunity to win. Still don't have a quarterback. Now, this last recruiting cycle, maybe the Connor kid is amazing. But, like, how much more leeway is he going to have? Like, A&M people, they're boosters, and their people are putting in way too much money to go 8-4. Way too much money. So, see. I love close games. I do, too. They're so much more fun to talk about than 58-0 or 60-3 against Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. Or not Ole Miss. Southern Miss and Utah State. They're so much more fun to talk about. And people get active in the chat. Because here's the thing, guys. I'll let you in on a show's secret. The show's only as good as you guys make it. I can sit up here and I talk to myself. I can do that for so long. But to really make it good, I need you guys. Because otherwise, I'm just talking to myself. And I sound like a crazy person. And I fully acknowledge that. I'll talk to myself in the car about college football. But it's much more fun when you guys are here interacting, talking, giving your thoughts, your opinions, liking the video, subscribing to the channels. Much better for me, and it's much better for people watching, or if they want to watch on replay. Ugly win, but we won. Isn't that that's kind of in the camp I think I would put myself. Although if you're in the other camp, I totally understand. Ugly win, a lot of mistakes. Backup quarterback still won the game. We'll see. I mean, is this a troubling sign for next week in Knoxville? All right, we got a Texas A&M fan here. Perfect. I actually like. Why did Spotify pull up on my phone? Anyway, okay. He's stubborn. His play calling is terrible. Daryl Dickey. Okay, I would call maybe on Mike Elko. Great DC, yet to see on head coach. Lance Leipold, man. There's going to be a lot of teams that want to get him next year. And Nebraska got in early. I think Wisconsin's just going to keep Jim Leonard. Man, he turned the worst program in college football, at least Power 5 college football, into a – I know they lost today. They're going to compete for that Big 12 title because there's a lot of, like, not great teams. Like, I don't think Oklahoma State's that great. I don't think TCU is unbeatable, although they'll have that head-to-head. And even if they don't, they're going to win 8 games. They've won, like, 8 games the last, like, decade. His play calling, again, everybody makes fun of the stupid play. He looks like he has the manuscript just like to like a Marvel movie. I don't know. It's like he has a movie that's like a mess. So he's like combining scripts because the sheets are all over the place. Like an intern dropped it. Like it's horrible, and I don't understand it. I think it was I forget what show it was. It might have been 247. Had like a milk jug with 2014 on it, and he's like, "This offense expired in," and maybe. I think it's tough, and you're seeing it at other places too. I think you're seeing it like at Missouri. I think Drinkwitz is having trouble calling plays and coach and being a head coach because of everything going on in college football right now. NIL, all that other stuff. You need a coach that's more of a CEO and not calling plays. I think it's too complicated to call plays and manage a game. And we're seeing it in the NFL. Nathaniel Hackett is really struggling. Some guys make it work, but like Matt LaFleur is not perfect. So Mike McDaniel's only 4 games in. Tennis. Okay. Yes, so that was an absolute mossing. That's one of those catches where even if they reviewed it and they were like, oh, he didn't have possession or stepped out or whatever, it still should count as a catch. Because that catch was absurd. Are you talking about the final play, Trevor? If so, explain why. Because I would love to hear from a Texas A&M fan's perspective. I really would, because I just don't have that. I have Alabama's perspective. I have like other teams that I've covered. So, okay, cool. You did comment. We'll cover this one first. I mean, he's with the recruiting class he brought in, he's gonna get a couple more years at the very least. But if OU and Texas come into the SEC, and I assume they're going to 2024, and A&M still kind of sitting at 8-4, man, is that going to be, especially when one of those teams comes in and kicks butt? To give you a hint, it's probably going to be Texas more than Oklahoma because they got the quarterback. Man, I think it's going to be tough for them to keep him. Stewart broke from his route early to the comeback, which is why King was late. He was early, but King. Okay. Maybe I can see your point on that one. I've seen the play one time, so if I couldn't tell you, or I've seen it twice because I saw it on Twitter before I went on because I just wanted to relook it. So I haven't had the chance to replay, and I've been talking this whole time, so I haven't had the chance to replay it in my mind over and over again. That may be the case. I'll take your word for it on that one. But if that's the case, it kind of appeared that was King's only read, which is odd. What's your question, Kyle? You, of course, can ask any questions here. I'm not a teacher, so I'm not going to say no dumb questions because that's stupid. But all questions are welcome here. I don't know what you're talking about, CNU. So if it's just spam, I don't want to have to block you or mute you. Probably mute. I don't like blocking people. Kyle, ask your question away because you guys on the chat probably have more even ability than me to kind of go back and watch some of these plays like Trevor did with the Stewart thing. That very well may be the case. I just, I haven't had the ability to really break it down. It just looked odd. Oh, Fresno versus Boise. Oh, is that on Fox or FS1? I'll put it on. I like having a game on in the background just because I think it's funny documenting live reactions. Thank you. Do I think Bryce Young will play next week? I think so. I think he'll play. We'll see. Yeah, it's on Fox. I think he'll play. I just haven't had interest in watching Fresno State since Jake Haener went down. So I think he'll play next week. I'd be shocked if he didn't play. This is gonna be that's a huge game for obvious reasons. I think the funniest thing I've seen today. I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't know if any of you watched the freaking. So did any of you watch the video South Carolina? Let me. I don't think I'm gonna find it. So after the game, in their video, it's Beamer standing up, and Beamer goes, "Now let's be classy with the media." But at media days, and he's talking about Mark Stoops, talked about coaches that are dancing and putting on sunglasses, and he just whips out a pair of sunglasses and starts dancing to some song. I respect the pettiness. I don't know how good Shane Beamer is going to be as a coach long term. I think he's got a little bit of Elijah Drinkwitz in him, where he may have overachieved first year and second and third year. But I respect that pettiness. Similar to Drinkwitz with the Darth Vader thing against Florida. I respected the hell out of that. That was hilarious. Young could have played tonight. Maybe. Alabama was bad. Yeah, they were really bad tonight, and they won. Which is one of the two camps you can sit in if you're a fan. We said it. You can sit in, oh my God, they're bad, and it was really bad, and or they played really bad and won. Let's see. Boise up by 7. If Jake Hayner's not playing, I'm not watching this game. Actually, I probably will because there's nothing better on. Nope, he's not playing. That's so disappointing. Love me some Jake Hayner. Kid just balls. God, I love these Boise helmets. These black, these are really cool helmets. Anyway, Alabama was bad tonight. Yeah, they weren't very good. That's okay. You won. I just got people messaging me rolling through. I got my Cubs fans laughing at me, so sorry. And I got to work tomorrow. It'll be fun. Much like this football game was fun. But yeah, you guys, leave your comments, your questions. What did you think happened? I think the pros for Alabama were the run game and the offensive line and the defense, especially Will Anderson. Those are the pros. The cons were the turnovers and, the last drive, the penalties. Like the penalties, they had the goofy pass interference call they didn't need to take. 6 penalties for 73 yards. Like that's, man, Saban will chew him out for that one. But they did win. They beat a Texas A&M team that we've all, dunked on them and said our piece. But they do have a lot of talent offensively and defensively. I mean, someone mentioned the Stewart catch where he just mossed the Alabama defense in between a corner and a safety. Crazy catch. Achane's a great player. Defensively, they got a lot of dudes, especially on the D-line, and they don't have a quarterback that they trust to make plays. And when you don't have a quarterback that you trust to make plays, you're kind of screwed. And Jimbo's uncreative play calling. I just don't. Man, you watch offense. I'm sure all of you're on this channel, so you probably will have college football. Man, you watch what Sarkisian's doing and Lincoln Riley and the guys at Kansas. Man, and you watch Jimbo's offense, it's just like, Drew, are you an A&M fan or an Alabama fan? Because I I think it would motivate Alabama for Tennessee. I think what motivates them more is they'll have their quarterback. Yeah, they took Bama to the limit. But I wouldn't be happy with it. That's the thing. If I'm a Texas A&M fan, I would look and go, Alabama had a backup quarterback that can't throw the ball. They turned the ball over 4 times, missed 2 field goals, and we couldn't win. I would be really disappointed if I was a Texas A&M fan, Bama fan. Okay, cool. I was just curious because you've left some really great comments tonight, and I haven't seen your name before. Just I don't know. Like last week, like for instance, I'll use an example last week. Like I know Mizzou fans were really upset last week after losing that game. Okay, do you think we'll beat Tennessee? It's hard to say no because of how that rivalry's gone. Because of how that rivalry's gone, man. But that's a really, really good Tennessee team, or not Tennessee team. Yeah, no, it's a really good Tennessee team. Sorry, I was reading a comment. 17 of 24 points on turnover. Texas A&M only had 1 turnover. So how good, whatever. But man, that offense is clicking. Heupel has that thing going. I just don't. It's tough to tell because they haven't played a team that I think's all that good. I just don't. I don't think LSU's that good. I don't think Florida's good. But they're impressive. Like they're doing what you can't help. Tennessee can't help that. Florida's down. LSU's down. Or in the first year of new coaches. Pitt has really struggled against Pitt, but they can't help that, and they've looked really impressive. Yes. Okay. Oh, you're fine. See, I think I knew what you were trying to say. Dots weren't connecting in my head. I'm sorry. It's late. Yeah, that's why I don't think the Alabama defense really. I think they played really well. Win would close. That's the thing that I in the back of my head I was thinking about too. Because if you win this game, you have a head-to-head over Bama. We talked about A&M's schedule earlier. Trevor, I'm sure you know it. All their tough games are at home. And how many ranked teams they have left? What, Ole Miss? Like Ole Miss is a good football team, but they're not unbeatable. They probably should have lost to Kentucky at home. Man, like you could really put yourself on the board for some momentum, and you just blew it. Yeah, you absolutely would still be in a chance to win the SEC West with a win, and you blow it. You can't get points, and now, it's kind of another season where you're like, I don't know. Boy, I really did zone out there for like 6 seconds. I thought I got an email that was important. So leave your guys' last comments and questions. I'll take comments for like 5 more minutes. Maybe, and we'll talk about it. Let's get close to midnight here. I'm tired. King isn't good. No, he's not the guy. So I'll take comments till like 11:45. But no, he's just not good. They're waiting for their quarterback next. They just recruited Connor Wegman or Wiegman, however you pronounce it. They're just waiting to see him next year because Haynes King, just not it, and neither is Max Johnson. Running backs are smaller than usual. Yeah, but they're shiftier, faster, and I think Jahmyr Gibbs is finally more comfortable in the run game, and I think the offensive line is better. The wide receivers aren't as good. Not everyone obviously has been in this chat, and you guys weren't here for some of those games against like Utah State. I criticize the wide receiver play a lot. I thought the wide receiver play until Bryce Young went out was pretty good last week. I think the wide receivers for Alabama are going to be fine. They just need their Heisman quarterback, not Jalen Milroe, who really struggles. Like I think the freshman last year had a coming out party, or the freshman last week had a coming out party. And this, and they just, man, we still haven't seen Tyler Harrell. No. Okay. Haynes King was the starter at the beginning of the season, and he was so bad he got benched for Max Johnson, and then he played tonight. So, kinda, but he came back into play because of the broken bone, I think is what it was, in Max Johnson's hand. But he was the starter at the beginning of the year. This isn't like, they were bringing in a Jalen Milroe who only played in blowouts, which there have been a lot of them.
So 3rd down and 6. Aggies bring up everybody close.
Me? Quite a bit, unfortunately. We got spoiled with Smith and Waddle and Williams and Judy. Yeah, Alabama has become Ridley. Oh, my God. Where's the Louisville transfer at? He's been hurt. I thought he was, like, coming back. Because I remember the Texas game. I thought he was going to play like within the couple weeks, and he just still hurt. I don't know what's going on with him because he was supposed to be the speed threat. He was supposed to be what Jamison Williams was last year, where he was kind of the guy that would take the top off the defense. And then Jamison Williams turned out to be, Jamison Williams. So I'd love to see Max play. Yeah, I feel bad for Max Johnson because Max is kind of a gamer. I think he would have dealt with getting hit every play better than Haynes King did, because Haynes King, I mean, snap bailing, and I can't really blame him. Max Johnson to me is more like a gutty kid, but I don't think it really would have mattered. I mean, to be fair to Max Johnson, on 36 or 46 dropbacks, he took 14 hits. Just woof. Not great for Max Johnson. Poor kid. I want defensive stats, please. Texas A&M only had 2 QB hits. I mean, they didn't throw the ball a lot because they can't. Milroe can't throw the ball. So I would like to see Max play. I think he's more of a gamer than like a Haynes King is. I think that's like the perfect gap. Like, I don't think Max Johnson's that good. He's kind of like that gamer player. Like, he'll take a hit and he'll bounce right back up, and he'll take a hit and make a nice throw for like a 12-yard gain. But I just don't think ultimately it really would have mattered. I think the biggest thing that mattered in this game was the 4 turnovers. Without those turnovers, Alabama probably scores a few more points, and Texas A&M doesn't score nearly 20 points. Less of a quarterback? I mean, I don't think you can get much less than Haynes King. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the SEC. I think there are like 2 worse than him, but he's not good. He has a little bit of maneuverability. Ian Smith, yeah, he was out. Man, they still had like. He just couldn't. Okay, here's the thing though. If we're doing that to defend Texas A&M's offense, well, Ian Smith was out, and They were playing Max. We're missing Max Johnson. Like their offense hasn't been good all year. Like okay, it's like ooh okay. Like oh no, like I think Smith's a really good football player, but like is he really changing the offense? I don't think so because A&M's offense is all year. And you can blame that on King. I don't put it all on Kane's King. I think Jimbo isn't doing a good job. All right, so many of you guys are in here. I'll take comments for 5 more minutes, but then it's 11:50 and I gotta go to bed. I'm tired. It's been a long day of college football watching and a wedding and driving and 35-7. I mean, I don't want to call it that big of a blowout, but maybe. Whew. I'm Zach Ermilius. You can subscribe to or follow me on Twitter. Oh my God, I'm gonna pass out. That's PsychoZ50. It's my Twitter handle. Of course, you're listening to all this. Mark Rogers, voice of college football, family of networks. Subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to all the channels. I can see who is on here. So if the 6 of you on the Texas A&M channel, subscribe. 6 of you. The 7 of you on the SEC football at the Voice of College Football, subscribe. Alabama football, subscribe. And then subscribe to the other channels. You can find me on the SEC and Alabama channel. Lucky I'm going to be on the Texas A&M channel tonight. Texas A&M fans, you guys have been wonderful so far. Thank you. I learned from Tennessee fans last year. Sometimes you're not going to be gracious after a loss. Should have got PI on that last play. Again, I've only watched the play twice. Someone earlier mentioned, who was it? Trevor. How he probably Stewart broke his route. On live and the replay, I didn't think it was PI. And in a place like that, they're not going to call it. They don't. Refs don't want to decide the game, which we think is a weird we don't want to decide the game with a penalty, but then you're deciding a game because you're making something that shouldn't be happening. So I don't think it was PI, and even if it was, no shot the ref calls it in that situation. 10 points more for A&M, 10 less. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I think I said 37-14 without turnovers. So goodness, my hair is just doing whatever it wants to in this right now. This is the longest show I've done this year. Because after the Texas game, I had to go to work. And so I couldn't stay on for all that long. The most impressive game today was the TCU. TCU wins was impressive. Fun game. I mean, those two teams have an unexpected good seasons. I disagree. I actually think Tennessee at LSU was the most impressive win. Tennessee's not great. LSU's not a great team, but it's still in Baton Rouge. Alabama fans, A&M fans, you guys know how tough it can be to go down there, and that game wasn't a game. They just kicked the crap out of them. So, TCU with a good win today. They're on track, and they got a big one at home next week against Oklahoma State. That game's going to be awesome. But, man, I think it was Tennessee going into LSU. Week before Bama. Yeah, week before Bama. So you're all sorts of looking ahead on a tough environment against a team that is going to have a lot of talent, and they just kick the crap out of them. Hey, thanks for stopping by, man. Good night. Yeah, I mean, it was a good game tonight. There's a lot of talent. No matter what you think about Jimbo Fisher or Texas A&M in the program, there's enough talent there to break through at any moment. Just got to get the quarterback right. Yeah, no, Oklahoma State's great. They looked pretty. Their offense is better than I thought because they lost a lot last year. And Spencer Sanders, I've never been like, ooh, he's great. He's a good quarterback. I think he's solid. Like I think he's a fine college QB. He's been really good this year, and they struggled with Texas Tech for a while, but they really closed it out in the late in the third, fourth quarter. I mean, Spencer Sanders, 22-45. They're just a better team than I thought they would be. That's another upset-minded team is Texas Tech. I remember before the season, I was like, they're going to ruin somebody's season. And they almost, I mean, Oklahoma State. Man, like, we're talking about how good Oklahoma State is, but they did almost get outgained by 100 yards, out first down, out possessioned. And according to Kirk Ferentz, these numbers don't matter, but sometimes they do. But they won the game. That's all that matters. TCA, no, they're going to go to Tennessee. ESPN's going to go to Tennessee. They took their fun trip this week to Kansas. Like, it's game day is weird to me. Is they'll go, or they might go to Michigan, Penn State, but they're not going to go to TCU, Oklahoma State. Game day is weird to me because they'll go to a game where they're God, where did they go week? Where did they go? Where have they been this year? They went 1 week. Somewhere fun. And I'm having a hard time remembering. But yeah, every once in a while I'll be like, wow, this is like the coolest experience ever. You know, these schools never get game day. Here they come. Like, this is so much fun. App State, thank you. This is so much fun. These different schools, these different environments, showing different parts of college football. And Reese Davis and all these Kirk Herbstreit are talking about the amazing time they had at these different places. And then they go back to the top 3 teams in the SEC, Ohio State tour that they do every year. And it just kind of drives me nuts, but whatever. Texas had the most impressive win. Was today more about Texas? And I think they are a good team. I think Texas is a pretty good team. Was today more about Texas, or was today about how bad Oklahoma is? Ask yourself that. I think we knew Texas was probably a pretty solid team with Quinn Ewers. I think today was more about OU being god-awful. They're god-awful. I mean, I'm looking at Oklahoma's schedule. Pulling that up right now, and man, they got Kansas next week. That's going to be a tough game. They got Iowa. They go to Iowa State. They got a tough Baylor team. They should beat West Virginia. They're 3-3. They get to a bowl game. They need to win 3 of these games. Kansas at home, at Iowa State, Baylor at home, at West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home, at Texas Tech. They need to win 3 of those. Now, can they? Yeah. They can win. They could win probably 4 of those. They should beat West Virginia. They should probably beat Kansas. I know Kansas is super fun this year, but they should probably beat Kansas at home. But man, like if it's year 1, imagine we get to November and USC's like 11-1. They lose to Utah or something next week, but they just destroy everybody else. And they're going to be into New Year's 6, and Oklahoma sitting there at 7-5. Boy, are Oklahoma fans going to have to shut up because they were obnoxious this offseason. We got our guy. We got our guy. Lincoln wasn't even that good. We'll see. Texas. Yeah, like I said, I think today's Texas Oklahoma game is more about Oklahoma being terrible than Texas being good. Tennessee went into like the toughest environment in college football and just killed them. That throw, that touchdown throw before the half, I think that Hooker had was gorgeous. Speaking of NFL draft with Young and all these guys, Hendon Hooker. Boy, is Virginia Tech missing him, you think? All right, guys. It is 11:55. Get in your last thoughts, your last comments before I log off and go to bed here now at midnight. Oh, my Lord. We've been talking for an hour 10. Thank you all for being here. This is the best because I get to talk to college football nuts, even the guy who said I didn't know anything about college football, which, buddy, come on. You think I'm doing this if I don't know anything about college football? You get goofy goof. You guys let's make this fun. I'll do shows with 4 or 5 viewers because no one wants to watch me anybody talk about Alabama beating Vanderbilt or Alabama beating whoever by 40 points. No one wants to hear me talk about that. I could break down, well, Jermaine Burton didn't run his route right here, and that's why Bryce Young had a little bit of an overthrow. Like, no one cares. They won 58-0. But when you have games like this and you have passionate fan bases, Texas A&M fans, super passionate, Alabama, super passionate, and then you have, of course, people around the country that are interested in what people have to say about this game, it's fun. That's what makes it fun. Roll Tide. Yes, sir. Tennessee and Alabama undefeated game since 1989, which is crazy. It feels weird to say, but it's also not like the most absurd thing I've ever heard. I think the most absurd stat I heard today was the first time an Auburn QB threw for a touchdown in Sanford Stadium since 2009. I think that was the craziest thing I've heard all day because they play every other year at Sanford. And then I was like, oh yeah, Bo Nix, Nick Marshall. It made me laugh. But subscribe to all our channels, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys had a great, wonderful Saturday. If you're on the East Coast, have a great Sunday because you're already there. But I'm gonna clock out. I'm gonna hit the hay. I'm gonna watch a little NFL tomorrow before I got some stuff to do. So thank you all for being here. Subscribe to our channels. Let me go through the things. Contact Mark. See if you can write for us or talk about us. Do one of these channels. Of course, there's our Patreon. Subscribe to that. Get into our Discord where it's just a bunch of nutcases talking college football. Civilly most of the time. Subscribe to all our channels. I can say that so much because hit that like button, and just talk about the channel. Share a channel. If you enjoy me or whoever talking about your favorite team, so share it, man. Like I would love to have 1 million people in here to talk about Texas or Alabama, Ole Miss in a few weeks. Like that would be so much fun for me. I love this stuff. I talk to it by myself, and I talk about it even in front of 100 people is the best thing in the world. Thank you all so much for being here. I'll take one more comment from Steve. Had you told me Tennessee and Alabama won't be in the SEC championship, I still think it'll be Georgia, but Tennessee's going to give them a run. I think the game being in Athens is what's going to kind of spell doom for Tennessee. But and if they lose next week, they'll have 2 losses, and Georgia's not losing 2 games. But you never know. Thank you all. I'm going to hit the head. I'm going to go to bed. You guys were awesome tonight. Congrats to Alabama. Texas A&M fans, it's all right. You got a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. You guys all have a great rest of your night, great rest of your Saturday, and thank you so much for tuning in.